we have to go where the voters are. So for many of us, that means going door to door and literally knocking on our neighbors' doors and not assuming anything about them, like that they're already registered to vote. For others, it means going to coffee shops, nightclubs, bars, food banks, wherever we find people, wherever they congregate, and having that conversation with them, introducing ourselves, saying, hey, my name's Beto, and I could register you to vote right now if you're not already registered. I'd love to do that. It'll take us about 5 minutes. And we do that one voter at a time, and that's how we build enough voters to make a difference in the next election. There is a group that many of us are a part of that Jen volunteers for every day called Powered by People. You can sign up to be a Powered by People volunteer or ambassador, and we would love to work with you to get folks registered in your life. Are you willing to do that? All right, I got a yes. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, Beto. You're so good at uniting people that we bridged a lot of gaps between Republicans, Democrats. I have a question for women who are rape and abuse survivors. How do we protect our own rights when our government doesn't? And how do we bridge that gap with Republicans so they understand how painful and hurtful it is that they don't care?
Thank you for being here, and thank you for bringing up something that's really important and not easy to talk about. This is the closest I've paid attention to the state legislature probably in my life. It's the first time that I've testified before the state legislature. And when I go down to the Capitol, I am struck by the courage of women like you, who have been willing to share very powerful, personal, painful stories to bring those state legislators, Republicans and Democrats alike, into the human level consequence of the decisions they're making. So often it is a political talking point. It's something that folks are going to cheer to at a rally when it's someone's life and you can describe what it means to you to lose your reproductive freedoms, for example, or the ability to see a doctor, or to make your own choices about your own body, or to be able to protect yourself against someone who might abuse you in your house, and now to realize that they'll be able to carry a weapon without even a permit or a background check. That brings them into a reality that you live every single day. So I encourage you to keep doing that. As Michelle said, she and her colleagues were so successful in defeating so many bad bills. As many as the bad ones that passed, there were many more that didn't. And that's in large part thanks to you and others who are willing to speak up. So I hope that you will continue to do that and know that we will continue to have your back. Okay, thank you. Thanks for being here.
All right, here's our next question. My name's Sonia. I'm a proud student of Collin Community College. I guess I just want to ask, what are your thoughts on the firing of 4 professors who were fired for trying to unionize?
Did you say Collin Community College? Just to repeat for everyone who didn't hear, what do I think about the fact that 4 professors were fired at Collin Community College for trying to organize? I'll be honest, it's the first that I've heard about it, so I don't know that I could give you an intelligent answer. I'll tell you, in principle, I believe that any worker, any employee should be able to organize with their fellow employees so they can bargain for salary, working conditions, and their rights in the workplace. So thank you for asking me the question. I'd love to follow up with you. Thank you.
All right, here we are. Hi. So here's my mom and my childhood best friend Anna, and they both instilled how important it is to vote in me from a really young age. And I have friends and family and these people over here in my life who really believe, not these people, those people, who really believe that their vote was stolen from them, and it kind of breaks my heart. I feel really bad for them to think that they think that their vote didn't count and that their elections are rigged or whatnot. And so, how do you go about comforting them? How do you go about making them feel better and encouraging them to vote maybe Democratic next time?
Yeah, I love this question. What do we do about the tens of millions of our fellow Americans who believe that the election was stolen and don't think that Joe Biden is a legitimate president of the United States? Like, there's no forgiveness for Donald Trump, there's no forgiveness for Ted Cruz, there's no common ground we're going to find with them because they are knowingly lying to the rest of the country. But for those tens of millions who can be forgiven for thinking, well, if the President of the United States, Donald Trump, told me this is true, maybe it's true. Right? I mean, when in American history have we not been able to count on what the President of the United States has said? There are some exceptions, of course, but for every other word out of his mouth to not be believed, that's a tough and tall order to ask of our fellow Americans. So I love that you asked this question out of an abundance of empathy. How do we make them feel better? How do we reach out to them? How do we find common ground? And let us do our best to try to do that. But let us not do what Joe Manchin is doing right now, which is the following. Joe Manchin has exceeded the bounds of reasonable empathy by saying that the party that fomented the insurrection in the first place, the party that is trafficking in this big lie that so many of our millions of Americans believe in, the party that could not muster 10 votes to investigate the January 6th insurrection is somehow going to be the party that we can reason with, find common ground with, and vote to protect the right to vote with. This is what's happening in America right now. Republicans have taken the gloves off. They could care less what you think about what they're doing to restrict voting rights. They're going to go right ahead and do it. They could care less about the fact that 5 people were killed while the United States Capitol was invaded by Trump supporters like these people. And we're trying to reason with them and find common ground and modify and develop consensus and compromise until, you know what? Nothing's going to happen. We have a majority in the House of Representatives. We have a Democrat in the White House, and we have a majority in the Senate. Let us use it now or forever lose this democracy. That's what we've got to do.
Person my age grew up starting to vote in Gus, 12.
Gus?
Yes.
He's 12 years old, and he's asking what he can do to help register people. If you can find someone in your life, a family member, an older brother and sister, a mom or dad, a grandparent, and encourage them to go down to the elections department and become a volunteer deputy registrar, you say, look, Mom, Dad, I'll knock on the doors for you. I'll do all the heavy lifting. I'll talk to those unregistered voters. You just be there to make sure that we sign the form and help them to fill it out. I think that's how you can make a difference. And I just bet you that your family member hearing that from you is going to be inspired and is going to want to follow your lead. So if you're willing to do that, I'd love to support you and report back to everyone how you do. Does that sound like a deal?
I want to follow up on one of your earlier comments. What kind of argument can you make to Joe Manchin to have him support getting rid of the filibuster or support the infrastructure bill, any other things that his vote, if not done, will block everything in the Biden agenda?
It's a great question. So we've heard from Democratic West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin that under no circumstances will he abolish the filibuster or vote to amend the filibuster. What does that mean? It means that in an institution with 100 members, where Democrats only have 51 of them, a one-member majority, that we need to find 9 Republicans, sometimes 10 Republicans, to get anything, literally, of consequence done, whether that's infrastructure, whether that's immigration, whether it's raising the minimum wage from $7.25 in the state of Texas to something like $15 an hour where somebody can live on that wage, whether it's health care or whether it's voting rights. And the way that I heard this woman who runs an organization called Run for Something, Amanda Littman, put it, she said, look, maybe most Americans don't know or care what the filibuster is, but they will know that if after 2 years where Democrats had the House, the Senate, and the White House, if they were unable to pass anything that meaningfully made their lives better, those Democrats will not be in power again for a long time. So if Joe Manchin wants to be in the majority, just that alone, he needs to change the rules of the filibuster. And certainly, if he does not want his legacy to be that he's the man who stood in the way of saving our democracy, and in fact was the one who ensured that we lost it forever, then he needs to do the right thing right now. Yesterday, he came out with a statement saying he would not support the For the People Act. For those of you who saw it and understand how critical his vote is, I want you to take heart. Very often in business negotiations, one party or the other will leave the table. They'll tear up the agreement. They'll say, I'm out of here. Very often in our marriages, and I don't want to point fingers, but one of our partners might leave and say, hey, I've had enough of you, Beto, and then they come back. That might be Joe Manchin in our relationship. So look, I want to be very clear about how troubled I am in the position he's taken. But I also want us to welcome Joe Manchin back into the fold and tell him there is still time to do the right thing. It is never too late to do the right thing. So let's reason with him with all we got. Thank you for asking.
I couldn't see the lady who said, what do you do when you have family members who are that are Trump voters? I don't know where you went. Oh, there you are. Okay. So my dad's a Trump voter. So, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. We have to wait when they're not acting like that. So, make sure there's no alcohol involved. Wait till after you come. So, you've got to find the common ground. You've got to find the common ground, and we have to get rid of this partisan divide. I know we're Democrats, and I'm blue hair. I'm so Democratic, my hair grows. But you need to find something, because there's just like you don't always get along with your spouses, or there's something that drew people to Trump. And I think it's the reality of your, I'm a bird store owner that got sick of all the bullshit and became a politician. So I think that's where people can relate to me in that meaningless. And my dad votes for me, and he promises he does. So I think you've got to find the common ground as much as you can. And there's going to be there's a lot of hard conversations at my household in family dinners, and I don't skirt around the top. Yeah. And try to find. And I tell him now being in the state house, I can say, well, no, this is what they're doing. Like, this is what they're doing. So I think you got to make it not as partisan, because this voter suppression bill that is out there right now, it hurts everybody. Yeah. It's not just minorities. It is by all means, it is attacking minorities. That is not what I'm not saying. It's not. But it's getting to the older white voters as well. Yeah, you got that right. It's making it harder for everybody to vote. There's provisions that we've seen where they're going to limit in the bigger counties how many polling locations you can have, and they're only going to be in the wealthy white areas. But there's even going to be less of that. So they're going to make it harder for them to vote as well. So it is about everybody, and you talk about that part of it. You talk about how it's going to make it harder for them to vote as well, because this is an all-inclusive voter suppression bill, and it is horrible. And I try not to swear every day, and I fail every day.
And is your dad coming around, or are you
my dad will never be a full-on Democrat. Let's just put it that way. But yes, he is coming around. The insurrection really bothered him, but then the media behind and all of this, yeah, and I should write this too, but that would be another thing. But I think you have to have the conversations. You have to have the hard conversations and I always try to go in there with a common ground. Yeah. And go in with the common ground. He's business oriented, so I go in with the business oriented. And then right now he's kind of liking Joe Biden because the stock market's doing pretty damn good. Sometimes that's what it takes, and I hate to say that, but find the common ground. You can find it, because we gotta stop it. Yeah. This crazy bipartisan, if we can't get anything done. And I want to say one of the weirdest things, and I keep forgetting to talk about it, that happened in that voter suppression bill is Chairman Kane, Briscoe Kane, he was my desk mate in 2018. Yeah, but he and I can find a common ground. And he publicly apologized when he was laying out SB 7 for them pulling out the vote center bill. That was an amendment that I had gotten so that Denton County can have election day vote centers because of our equipment. He publicly said it'll be the first one that the bill that he was put through in the special session. So you've got to find the common ground, because he believes in the uniformity of every county should have the vote center ability. So you find the common ground. And I found that common ground. And that's what you have to do. And he is a joint author of that bill. So you find the common ground, but the rest of the bill takes.
I want to remind everyone, we've got some sign-up sheets that are going around. Are they all to commit to vote, or do we have other sign-up sheets? Okay. All right. So there should be a sign-up sheet going around. If you can fill it out, we would really appreciate it, because we laid a lot of information on you tonight and a lot of different calls to action. And I'd love to be able to stay in touch with you and say, hey, here's the number to the White House, or here's how you get in touch with your state legislator, or here's how you could become a certified volunteer deputy registrar in your county. If you'll sign up, we're to Japan and South Korea and meeting his Chinese counterpart in Alaska. All important countries, all important trips. Nothing's more important than the hemisphere to which we are connected, that has produced tens of thousands just in this year of refugees and asylum seekers who are showing up at our front door right here in Texas, seeking shelter and safety because they are leaving the most dangerous countries on the face of the planet. If the United States, after those brave men who left Cook County in 1944, could rebuild Europe and make sure that it was safe for democracy and that it had a vibrant economy that no one had to flee and seek refuge from here in the United States, then we can work with the countries of Central America and Latin America and this hemisphere to get it right. And I want to be clear, it's not just a matter of spending money, although I want to be clear that that's part of it. But it's also making it the diplomatic focus of this country to get it right. Because if we don't, we heard George W. Bush talk about comprehensive immigration reform, and he was going to fix this. We heard President Barack Obama talk about comprehensive immigration reform, and he was going to fix this. We heard about Donald Trump building a 2,000-mile wall that Mexico was somehow going to pay for, and that was going to fix it. None of them have fixed it, because none of them have made this the focus of getting at the root causes of these problems, which are in those countries. So my thanks to the Vice President and to the President through her for making this a priority finally. But it's going to take more than a message about don't make this 2,000-mile journey. It's going to take more about, if you want to come to our country, come the right way. When you cannot feed your family because you've seen the worst droughts in your country's history, the worst storms that have hit the coastline, all exacerbated by the climate change that all of us together have caused. When your civil institutions have been hollowed out because of the illegal drug trade that we are the largest consumer for, and the drug war that we foist upon that part of the world. When you look at the civil wars in which we participated in the 70s and 80s, we have some culpability for what is happening there right now, and an opportunity to help get it right. So I want us to focus on that, and I hope that we can follow up with real policies, real investments, and real diplomatic effort to work with our partners in the region. Thank you for asking the question. Yep. Hey, tell me your name. Hi. Will you hold the microphone up here, right? Yeah. Can you say it a little louder?
My name is PJ.
PJ. Nice to meet you. PJ, do you have a question or something that you'd like to say? It's okay. Sometimes take your time. Take your time. You're doing really good, PJ. PJ, let me ask you a question first. If you don't mind, this is a personal question. How old are you?
I am about to be 6 in June.
You're going to be 6 in June?
No, July.
In July. Okay.
Coming.
Okay, everybody put this on your calendar. July 29, PJ is going to turn 6 years old. All right? Happy early birthday. PJ, are you about to be in first grade? Yes, he's about to go into first grade. Will you put this a little bit closer to your mouth so we can hear you? Is there something you want to ask me or to say to me or to say to everybody who's here?
Yeah,
I'll repeat what PJ said. You go to elementary school and then put it really close to your mouth and say the rest. He made new friends on the first day. That's awesome. I like that. It's the best way to have a first day. you had another party on the last day of school? I love that. PJ, I want you to have the best possible year in first grade, and I want you to be so nice to your teachers, which I'm sure you are. I can tell you're such a nice person. And we're very lucky to have those teachers, aren't we, in our school, throwing all those parties and being so sweet with us. You're going to be going into middle school. You know what? All of us here are so glad that you came, and we're all expecting great things from you. You're going to be a great, great person. We all know you are. We're with you. Thank you, PJ, for coming out. You did such a good job. A lot of people. That's so good. All right. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Julia Parker Mills. I'm at the
That's right. Yes. Good to see you.
Because if we could have won Denton, we could have had you as the senator. I wanted to be commissioner to help get that through because we were working with Representative Beckley to get that paperwork done. So what I would like you to talk with the crowd about is how important it is to vote for down ballot in local and county races. We have a tendency in this area to befriend Republicans and vote them locally and not understanding that they're going to be moving up the ladder. So we've got to prepare our candidates to move up. Not only that, but how important it is to the local offices when you have local Democrats. Because Beckley, Representative Beckley can get that passed, but without a Democratic county commissioner, we don't get that enforced.
Great point. Yeah, you're amazing. Never goes wrong as a candidate and serving right here, bringing us all into a really important issue, which is, as you said, just to reiterate, how important it is to vote the full ballot. There's not straight ticket voting in Texas anymore. I know I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but it bears repeating because many of us in a high-profile election like in 2020, we want to make sure that we vote for this or against that other person, and then we think our job is done. But in 2018, when Michelle was running and I was running and all of you helped us run, not only did we produce the largest turnout in a midterm election since 1970 in the state of Texas, not only did we see young voter turnout increase over 500% from the last midterm election, we helped to elect candidates up and down the ballot. I may not have defeated Ted Cruz, but we helped Colin Allred win his race in North Texas. We helped 12 state representatives win their races to the state legislature, leaving us with a deficit of only 9 seats that we have to make up in 2022. And to Delia's point, in Harris County, home to Houston, Texas, 17 African American women won judicial elections. If you care about criminal justice, that's how you change criminal justice in Harris County. That's how we change it here in Denton County. So let's remember to vote the full ballot. Ms. Connell.
All right, I'm right here, and I'm sorry if I didn't get to you, but these are going to be my last 3.
Okay, my question is about the voter bill putting in a poll watcher. It seems like we might be dealing with this kind of thing that we've never dealt with before, and that's very disturbing. So what can we do? Because I have no doubt they'll show up to poll watch to intimidate. I read their law.
Sure. So I didn't even know what poll watchers were because we don't see them too much in my elections. I mean, my whole 5 that I've had. But we are going to start seeing them. I will say, So they're untrained. I know, I can tell you what they are. They're untrained people that are watching election officials do their jobs, and election officials are trained. And we are in a county that's, our elections are run by the Republicans. They've done a pretty good job. We flipped a seat in 2018. I'm one of the 12 that flipped. But I really need some friends in Austin. A lot, like you guys have known, this session is making it very obvious. But some of the things, everything keeps changing on this bill. Everything keeps changing. So was it in there? Is it out of there? And at the end of it, you know, some weird things came from nowhere. Like they just came out of nowhere. The Sunday voting and then the overturning elections. We had never seen those before. The rest of the bill had been piecemeal through, had been other bills that we had seen, but those provisions we hadn't. So what we are trying, being the election officials, you know, they're intimidating people from wanting to do that by making, we haven't talked about, they're making felonies for clerical errors. That's another thing that we saw. That was also in that bill. And I don't know, how many in here has been an election judge? Can some people raise your hand? Yeah, like, I bet a lot of you are grandma and grandpa too. Like, I'm good because you're, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not being derogatory or anything, but I'm just saying that I really don't think you're that nefarious. I never got that feeling from you guys when I go in to vote. And even the Republican election judges have always done a good job. I don't think my election was flawed. Our Secretary of State is getting fired for intense, she got fired because they didn't put her in because she said our elections were safe and secure in Texas. A woman is getting fired for doing her job. Yeah, so that is how bad it is. Huh? That's wrong. It is wrong. It is wrong. I don't care if she's a Republican or a Democrat, that's wrong. And our elections were safe and secure. I do think that Trump won Texas. I do think that my election was safe. I think all the way down the ballot was safe. But these poll watchers, there's video of Harris County, and almost all of the attack is what's happened in Harris County. And this is history repeating itself because it also happened in 1964 was what Harris County did then. And I've learned way more about history than I ever knew about election history that I've ever known in my entire life. And, you know, we need to pay attention. We need to make sure we do not repeat history. And except for we do need HR 1 through. And we need for the people, like we had the voters right. And so I think the poll watchers, yes, but still please sign up to be election judges because we still are going to need you and all the election workers. Don't be intimidated. Do not let them intimidate you. I'm sure the party will get that if that bill passes. It hasn't passed yet. A lot of this is we've got to wait and see what actually passes. And we don't know at this point. And some of the weirdness, because I'm very hyper, oh my gosh, somebody's wearing exactly everything and I just saw it. Oh my God, my phone is up and I know it's TV. She's going to punch on some weird, sorry guys. I just saw that. I haven't seen her yet. So I think you keep, I mean, right now, I mean, if you're here in this area, this is Lynn Stuckey, I would keep writing him. He's on a swing district, guys. He's going to listen to you. You know, he's a swing district, and I don't know how much Denton County the city of Denton just elected some liberals, so I don't know. Find out where his office is, see if he'll take an appointment with you. Lynn Stuckey, your state representative. Where do you live? But we're in Denton County. What city? What city?
I don't live in any city.
You live in the city of Denton? You live in the city of Denton? Okay, so I don't know who your state rep is. I'm sorry.
I only live in the county.
Okay. She's a water district. But we got lots of water districts, and so I'm not sure which one you're talking about. Where's Luke? Luke has a website that you can find out who represents you, and we need to find, yeah, TexasDemocrats.org, find out who represents you, and write them. Woo! I don't know if it's Lynn Stuckey. He might. Representative Stuckey may be here. Okay. And we're, you know, Denton County group, we haven't touched on redistricting, and Denton County is probably getting another seat. So there's some people worried up here. So I would reach out. And right now they're not in Austin, so they're listening a lot more. Go to their office.
All right. Woo!
I am the Denton County Democratic Party Chair. I also ran for HE 106 in 2020, didn't quite make it, but I can tell you 106 has them a little nervous. So that's a good sign because that is a very red area. Aside from being a BDR and getting people registered to vote, you really need to consider volunteering either with the party or with Powered by People or with any other organization in the county that is working on elections. Whether it's for one issue like gun violence prevention, which is mine, with Moms Demand Action, or for LGBTQ issues, anything like that, volunteer and get involved in elections and start today because it never ends. There is no non-election season. It's every single day. We just finished runoffs. It never ends. So volunteer, even if that means doing it from your house on social media, making phone calls, writing letters, anything like that. There's nothing that you cannot volunteer to do. They need somebody to do anything and everything. If it's hauling water all over the county, do it. If it's going and buying pencils and notebooks, do it. That's what they need. If it's data, oh my God. If you can enter data in a spreadsheet, please call us. So volunteer. And then another thing that I wanted to touch on, kind of shifting gears here, I mentioned gun violence prevention. They just passed some of the most horrid gun bills. I thought the session before was bad. They just pretty much said, hey y'all, anybody can carry a gun now, whether or not you had training or a permit or a criminal record, go for it. They just pretty much did that. I don't know if we can fix that. I don't know if we can get a majority in the House and fix that. I don't know. But you need to start calling your rep every single day and tell them what a piece of shit they are for voting for that bill. So we have a lot of more work to do. There's going to be more horrible gun bills that they're going to keep trying to push through, and we need to start paying attention. And you need to call them when they try it and tell them to stop. Because if they don't hear from you, they're going to think nobody cares. And by the time it passes, it's too late. 3,000 Texans die a year by gun violence, and 60% of that is suicide. My family just faced a crisis a couple of months ago, and had I not known about the dangers of having a gun in our house when somebody is facing a mental crisis, I probably wouldn't have my husband right now. We need red flag laws in the state to empower police and families to get guns out of those situations. We don't want to take guns from law-abiding